It's the Profit Answer Man, Rocky Lalvani. For those of you who are new to the show, check out my interview with Mike Michalowicz. It's episode 2. If you want to hear about each chapter in the Profit First book, go back and listen to episodes 3 through 13. Episode 1 is the why and how behind this. Here's the issue. 80% of business owners hate accounting, and I don't blame them. But you need to have someone to help you make good financial decisions. Unfortunately, many bookkeepers and accountants aren't great at this. Plus, they don't think like you do. You need someone on your team who can help you make financial decisions that ensure you have the time and freedom to do what you love. Remember, more revenue does not equal more profit. That's why we focus on the bottom line. Today's guest is a fellow Profit First professional, Tatiana Tsoir, who is a numbers expert, visionary accountant, and founder CEO of Linza Advisors. With tax season quickly approaching and over 15 years of experience, Tatiana's proactive planning helps ambitious dreamers get to know their numbers, get taxes under control, and reduce money anxiety. She's got a new book coming out, Dream Bold, Start Smart, in March of 2021, which provides a step-by-step guide for those who want to be their own boss, but may be intimidated or overwhelmed by money, numbers, and taxes. Let's meet our guest. Welcome to the Profit Answer Man podcast, Tatiana Tsoir. It's great to have you join us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Can you share with the audience a little bit about what you do?
Sure. So I'm an author and a visionary accountant. I also call myself a numbers expert. And I primarily work with small businesses, and I help them kind of address different aspects of their business and introduce numbers to them, help them learn and not be afraid of those numbers, and help them really get a handle on their finances. And because I believe that alone helps a business owner grow and develop their business and make it what they really wanted it to be when they started.
Very true. You know, I was shocked to learn that business owners didn't pay attention to the business of business. And once I learned that, I really started shifting everything I was doing towards focusing on that. Because for me, it's just the core of what I do. And I'm like, I can help people. And that's what I love to do. So tell us, how did you get involved with Profit First?
It's actually an interesting and funny story. I actually kind of joined Profit First kind of backwards. I think over 5 or 6 years ago, a client of mine, my biggest client at the time, was struggling with cash management. Not struggling where he didn't know how to manage cash. He did know, but there was no kind of ongoing process. So a couple of years before that, he made a couple of wrong decisions. His collection, and it's in the fashion industry, his collection wasn't as successful as he had hoped for that one season. And then in the same year, he also made a decision to renovate his store, and that required a lot of cash. And kind of combine that with an fairly unsuccessful collection, which there are only 2 collections a year, that was detrimental to his cash. So he ended up needing to borrow close to $500,000 to be able to make his production payments for the next season. And if you know anything about fashion industry, typically what happens if you produce overseas is that you have to pay 30 to 40% deposit 5 or 6 months out for a collection, and then also pay the rest, 60 to 70%, kind of as the delivery nears. And basically you have a lot of cash outflows at certain times of the year. And combined with those couple of unfortunate things, basically he ended up having close to $1 million in debt in that year. And since then, for a couple of years, he ended up borrowing close to $100,000 to $250,000 additionally from the bank, and then slowly paying that back. But he was never able to pay back that initial close to $1 million kind of, and that that kind of spiraled down a little bit. And then one day he texts me, Tatiana, I read Profit First, and this was the original, piggy bank version of Profit First. And I read Profit First. We're doing it. I set up the accounts, and like, in addition to updating the books every day, please transfer 1% to these accounts. So we started with 1%. And basically, I've been doing that for about 3 years total. And after the first year, he stopped borrowing in September, which was his normal cash dip time. I mean, it was tight. Things were tight in terms of cash, but he didn't borrow. And he kept paying down the debt. So 3 years later, his debt was down to about $500,000. And it was eventually paid off completely. And it wasn't a magic pill. It wasn't a magic wand. But he approached vendors. He approached landlords and, negotiated better deals. He didn't just push them to give him more money or a bigger discount. He explained and reasoned with them and asked for help to stay in business. And that worked really, really well. And basically, after about 3.5 years, I finally read the book, and I was like, oh my God, this makes so much sense. And so I texted him, and I was like, listen, I read the book Profit First. It makes perfect sense. It's such a great book. And he was like, where were you 3 years ago? So I actually have a really fun experience with Profit First in that sense. And then it's kind of been, I joined the organization right away, and it's been an interesting journey ever since.
By nature, are you an accountant? Is that what you're?
I am a CPA. I work, I do a lot of accounting, bookkeeping, tax work, as well as price psychology consulting, Profit First consulting, and tax planning as well.
So they didn't teach you any of how to build profit as part of your CPA or your master's or any of that?
Well, my experience has kind of taught me, because I've been working with small businesses since 2005, and I saw that business owners, and I couldn't understand, why would they not look at their numbers? Why would they not know what's going on in their business? Why would they wait to take the profit? I just never put it into words, and Profit First has allowed me exactly that.
And that it has. It's the Profit First system, like the concepts of Profit First is how I built wealth. So I know it works because I've been doing it for 30 plus years of paying myself first and pulling money aside and going with the principles. So it is a proven system. It always works if you implement it and you stick to it. And that kind of ties in. You shared with me a mantra before we started recording. Would you share that with the listeners?
Sure. So I believe that business owners, when it comes to numbers, I often tell them, don't fake it till you make it. Face it and face it early. It's my mantra, because I think that so many business owners kind of put the numbers on the back burner, never really look at it. Don't feel like, I've never been good at math, and I don't feel like I have confidence to really handle it, and it's going to happen on its own, or any other myths that are out there that people believe in, and that everyone else has it together, kind of thing. And I think that if you just face it, you can skyrocket your business in every possible way, in financial way, in scaling, in everything, because just facing your numbers gives you tools to make decisions. And that's what numbers are really for.
And that's very true. And, I still am coming to grips with this because I'm naturally a numbers person. I've been using spreadsheets for probably going on 40 years now. And it's just natural to me. And so that's why I always when I hear that people struggle with it, I'm always kind of surprised. And I'm also surprised they don't take action to fix it, because that's the problem. If nobody is looking at your numbers, mistakes are going to get made, and you're going to get on that cycle like your client did, where they're constantly in debt. So compounding works both ways. It works to build wealth, and it can work against you with debt and make things horrible. And so I tell business owners, either you need to focus on the numbers, or if you don't want to focus on the numbers, find somebody who will focus on the numbers for you and actually does. A lot of accountants and bookkeepers just do taxes, or they do reporting of numbers, but they're not focused on your numbers. So you've got to make sure they're actually helping you be profitable. Pick somebody like Tatiana or I who is focused on that bottom line of ensuring that you're profitable. I'm sure now that you've started and joined up with Profit First, do you have other success stories of clients?
I mean, this by far has been my success story, biggest success story, because it kind of has been an interesting journey. But what I found was that sometimes you need to adapt Profit First to the client, because not every client is the same. Not every business is the same. And I'll give you an example. One of my clients is a real estate agent, and for him, it doesn't work to have the 10th and the 25th, because he gets paid sporadically throughout the year. And, he can get paid, let's say today, and then not get paid for 3 months. So what's the point of even keeping the 10th and the 25th? So what I have him do is just make the distributions every time he gets paid. And that has worked really well for him.
And that's true. There's a lot of customization that goes on with Profit First. All of my clients are different. And for each one, we have different rhythms, different ways, and different accounts, and different goals, and different percentages, and different, step-up plans that we use with each of them. And it's not even just implementing the rhythm, but it's then having the deeper discussions of, how do we cut costs, just like you had mentioned with that first client, of how do we go have the conversations with the landlord, or where are the areas that we should even have conversations in? If we're going to spend time doing this, where should our focus be so that we get the biggest return on it?
Yeah.
And for people who have sporadic cash flow like that, one of the biggest things that, and I'm sure you do the same, is to build up reserve accounts so that you can, because while you may get paid once every 3 months, you've got bills that are due every month. And so handling that cash flow and making it easier for your clients to be able to pay their monthly bills when they have irregular payments coming in.
Yeah, absolutely. And that has been kind of the focus of my work with my clients. And honestly, for this specific client, the first thing we did was build reserves, because he has an assistant and a couple of other people who help him out. And there was one point where he couldn't pay the person on time, and nothing kills morale more than not getting your paycheck on time.
Well, because most employees are living paycheck to paycheck. You miss one paycheck, your world starts falling apart.
Yep.
And that's the quickest way to lose good employees, is not to pay them, because they lose confidence in you. And so you've got to be able to build up those reserves and be able to handle that. And that's an important part. And the problem with that is now your employees come first, right? But not you. And you're the one doing all the work and the investment. We can create systems so you get paid and they get paid. You get to sleep at night. So much easier.
That's right. And I think it all starts a lot in commitment. And for this specific client who's had tremendous success with Profit First, it was about commitment to his brand, to his business. And he just, these conversations, when you talk to your vendors and try to work out a plan or a reduction or something, they're not comfortable. They make you very uncomfortable, in fact. And it takes a stronger person to say, you know what? Yes, I feel nervous. I don't want to really do this, but I know that I have to. So for him, it was it wasn't easy to do this, but for example, when it came to rent, the store was on a street where there are other empty stores. So he approached the landlord and said, listen, I'm really struggling because the retail industry, the actually selling stuff at a store has been on decline for a while. And I do want to stay in business. I want to keep my brand alive. And I know that there is demand for it, but you got to work with me. You don't want another empty store on the street because you'll never rent it out. So it was a reasonable proposition. He wasn't pushing them to do something that's not fair to them. It was both fair to him and to them at the same time. And that takes a huge commitment to your business and your life and your brand. And I think that's where a lot of business owners sometimes miss is they think that it's just I don't want to call it a game, but more of they're not committed enough to themselves even. And that's probably where I would recommend starting.
Well, there's fear with that, and nobody wants to do what they don't feel like doing, right? We all do what we love doing, and we put off what we don't love doing. And the cool thing with my clients is I give them permission. I'm like, go call your landlord, tell him Rocky said, we can't afford this rent. What can we do? Let's have a conversation. And so I take the blame for my clients, and so that they don't feel like they're the one going and asking. I say, blame it all on me and make me the bad guy, so that this way they feel like the good guy. And they're like, what am I supposed to do with this guy? He's all over me. You can't argue with Rocky. And so that makes it easier for them. Or the other thing I do is I say, look, if you don't want to do this, either find an employee or find an outside company that will negotiate for you, because there are companies that will go do negotiations for you. Yeah. And then that takes all the emotion out of you, and it makes it easier to get it done. So if you don't want to do it, delegate it or find somebody who can do that for you. Because at the end of the day, you've got to be profitable or you will not survive, and that's not good.
Yeah, and I think that their numbers is something that should not be delegated fully. You can have a support system like a coach or an accountant, an advisor who helps you, but I still think that even this client of mine, he still is very involved in the books. He knows exactly what's happening every day. And he has his own little metrics. And I think that that's how it's supposed to be. And a lot of people, when they start businesses, they only want to do what's fun and what they really love doing. And it's okay to delegate other stuff that you don't like doing, except for the financial side of things, I think.
Well, I say delegate, but verify. So someone else can do the actual, putting the numbers into the system, but you've got to have the eye on the ball to say, what did today's numbers say? Like, bring me this report. What were today's sales? And is that real? So at least let somebody prepare it in a way that it's easy for you to understand and to verify that things are going appropriately. You can't delegate you can delegate the process, but you can't delegate the actual looking and making sure that things are good.
Yeah, I agree.
What are some of the struggles you've seen with customers implementing Profit First?
I think the biggest struggle kind of is in the beginning, usually. That's what I've seen at least. And what that looks like is kind of like someone reads the book, reaches out to a Profit First professional. They want to dive right in. They want to do it aggressively. Or they just want to start with the minimums, just like the book says. And then they see that they're running out of cash, and some of them start borrowing from a tax account or a profit account or whatever. And it kind of, they're spiraling back to where they started often. And that's where kind of a Profit First professional comes in, where they can create a support system and really give examples of how other clients have done it and how other clients have gotten out of these situations. Just like my client who approached a landlord. I didn't teach him to do that. He did it all on his own, and that's how I was very impressed by the profit first system, because that's exactly what you need to be doing. You just need to do it smart. And the struggle is often, kind of jumping in, diving into this to setting it up and making it work, but then finding out that, you have to borrow and then you're back to square one kind of thing.
And that's very true. I have a lot of retail clients, and the biggest things that we've been focusing on and working on is, if you can only mark something up 100%, you're going to struggle. It's not enough of a gap to be able to afford all the overhead that comes with retail. And so we try and brainstorm to find different ways to get products at lower costs, or to look at services within our business where we are getting higher profit margins, and then focusing our attention on the products or the areas that provide the higher profit. And if you don't know what those are, you can do the same amount of work, but make a lot less money. But when you're focused and intentional, saying, hey, this is where all the profit is really coming from in my business, then you can start to shift and spend time where the profit is. And that really helps. But again, it's like you said, this is not overnight success. This isn't something you just start and implement and it works. For most of my clients, it's a journey. It might take 1 to 2 years to get that perfect rhythm going. And if you have a lot of debt, it will take longer to get out of debt. But as you said, this guy got out of $1 million of debt in a few years, little bits at a time. And you just have to keep going, and you have to keep doing that. It just takes time.
It does. And that's what probably the best advice would be, to kind of manage your own expectations, but keep pushing nonetheless. Keep doing it and keep believing in it, because that alone will kind of carry you through the rough spots.
And that's true. And that's why having somebody to be accountable always helps. I tell people, you can go to the gym and you can work out. You'll probably get good results. But imagine if you had a cook and a trainer. When you're there with the trainer, you tend to work out a little bit harder. And when you've got somebody preparing your meals, they're making sure that it's done correctly. They prevent you from cheating from yourself and stealing from yourself, and they help to push you there faster. So you achieve your dreams faster because you've got support systems around you that help you and ensure that you're successful. You've got a book coming out in 2021, Dream Bold, Start Smart. What is that all about?
The book is actually, it came as a result of seeing clients who start businesses ask the same questions, make the same mistakes that could have been avoided. And I just realized that, I've gotten to a point where I only take established businesses who are running at least $200,000 in net profit every year. And that's where my expertise and my skills can really make a huge difference for them. And because of that, I almost stopped working with businesses who are just starting out. But what I realized was that those who are just starting out need the expertise of someone like me the most. Because that's the most critical time. That's when people are starting businesses and can't really afford to make a mistake. And because of that, I decided to bridge that gap and to create a roadmap for those who have a business idea or just started out or are starting out, who can actually know how to understand their risks, which entity to form, how to set up their cash management from the start so that they avoid the pitfalls. And I do mention Profit First in the book because it is a very powerful system. How to price their product or service using price psychology, and a few other things that are based on the questions that I've been asked for years. And the book is for someone who, like I said, has a business idea or is just starting out and needs to get that under control. And that's coming out in March, and it will be available for, on Amazon, obviously. And it's just, I think that hopefully the goal for this book is to it's actually kind of it serves two parties, it's a two-way street, so to speak, because it serves those who are starting out who maybe wouldn't have started a business because they were intimidated by all the money, numbers, and tax matters, or someone who would have lost money because they would have made the wrong moves or maybe encountered in not strong enough support on their journey, and give them something to start and then save the money that they can't afford to waste. Skip the mistakes and skip the anxiety and know exactly what to do. So then once they grow and they keep all that money, they actually hire someone like me or like you to help them take it even further. So and it's a little bit of a self-serving book, because my dream would be to create a world where all of that money wasted on mistakes that could have been avoided is kind of scrapped, and we don't have that anymore. Because the reality is that let's say when someone starts their own QuickBooks and they try to save money and do it themselves, they often create, I don't want to call it a mess, but it really is a mess. Let's call it what it is. And then they end up paying someone like me a couple of $1,000s to clean it up. So that whole DIY, because I can't afford to hire someone, becomes meaningless. So, and I, as an accountant, really despise doing the cleanup work because there's no real skill that's required for it. All you need to do is you need to know how to work the system, how to fix it without doing the quick fix type thing, so that you can actually help a business owner withstand an audit. But so I don't like doing it. Clients don't like paying for it. So what if we could just skip the whole thing and have people start right and start smart and actually save that money so that they can actually hire someone like me later when it's time?
And that's true. Building your foundation is one of the most important things. And what I find for most business owners as they're starting out is they don't calculate all the costs that are involved in running their business. They think that, okay, I buy it for X and I sell it for Y. That's all profit. And the reality is, no, that's not all profit. There's a whole bunch of expenses that come in there. And if you don't know what they are and you haven't taken the time to figure them out, you can die a death by 1,000 cuts, because especially in the beginning, you're selling something and you think you're profitable, but when you actually analyze the numbers, you're actually losing money doing it. And I think that's why so many business owners struggle, is they don't take the time up front to do the math to make sure it's right and that it works. And then the second thing is, especially with bookkeeping, not all bookkeepers are created equal, right? Some are great and some are not so great. I mean, I always tell the joke, what do you call the guy who graduated last in medical school? Doctor, right? So, we're not all created equal. You need to make sure that your bookkeeper is doing a good job. And the problem is, if you don't understand it, then you can't even judge them. Yeah. And that's a problem. So having that framework up front so that you can say, okay, these are the things I need. This is the way I want it done. And putting things in the right categories is very important. It's one of the reasons I refuse to do bookkeeping now, is when I'm in the weeds, I can't see the forest. And I've been in both places. And so now I will never do bookkeeping, because I want to be able to look from the top line. But most of every month, usually with my clients, I'm always catching a bookkeeping mistake somewhere. I'm like, oh, this needs to get reclassified. This was an issue. And it's good to have the checks and balances, right? And for my clients, they don't want to do this because they want to go do what they love. But that's fine, but someone needs to verify everything. And my clients should be verifying me, making sure I'm doing a good job for them. Otherwise, fire me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, don't even get me started on bookkeeping because I was fortunate enough to start in the weeds of bookkeeping. I started out as a bookkeeper while learning accounting. So I actually, in my practice, and it's true for every CPA almost, I'm struggling to find really great bookkeepers who were as good as I used to be. I mean, I'm still good at bookkeeping. I just don't do a lot of it anymore. But that propelled me to create a certification program, a training program for bookkeepers, because I just can't. Those who are really good bookkeepers, they stop being bookkeepers and then they become advisors and they have their own firms and they stop doing the actual work. And so it's a perpetual cycle of not being able to find a great bookkeeper. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to train them because I think that it's easy to become a bookkeeper because you can learn the software and that's it, you're a bookkeeper. But what they're missing usually is that foundational accounting knowledge of the basic accounting equation, of the normal balances and things like that, which happens in the background of any software package. So I created a program to train them so that others can hire them and I can hire them also for my own firm.
And that's important. And I think people should, there's so much anxiety and fear with money that I think business owners sometimes won't challenge the bookkeeper. And that's an issue if the bookkeeper doesn't know what they're doing. And it's because they aren't taught. That's the reality of it. We don't teach things appropriately. We don't teach money in school either, right? I went through all the way through my MBA. Nobody taught me how to build wealth. They didn't teach me how to make a profitable business. They taught me how to read financial statements. And so unfortunately, we aren't taught the hows and whys of money. And eventually we find some good people and we start our own programs, and you're doing a wonderful job in helping bookkeepers to do that.
Yep. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today. If people would like to find you and connect, where's the best place for them to do that?
Sure. Thanks so much for having me, Rocky. I really enjoyed the conversation. And if you're looking to connect with me, the best place is my website, talktotatiana.com. That's where you can connect with me and sign up for different things and get some free information and some free tools. And that's the best way.
And I will put that link in the show notes so that people can find you quickly and easily. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Rocky.
I have a very simple goal, and it's for you to be profitable. And if you need help, you need to reach out to someone to get help. If Tatiana resonated with you, reach out to her. If you resonate with me, reach out to me. There's a scheduling link in the show notes to get on my calendar. We can just chat and see if we're a good fit for each other. As you can see, I don't have any competition anymore in life. My focus is nothing more than to serve you and to help you be profitable. And I will find the best people to share how you can thrive and grow your business to be as profitable as possible and bring them on the podcast. If you want to learn about living the life of your dreams, check out my other podcast, Richer Soul. As we close out, let's repeat the mantra. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king. Let's thrive and grow. Have a profitable week.